the telepathy, I think, would eventually it would destroy your brain.
Mm.
You just don't want to know what everyone's thinking all the time. It's just not healthy.
Hello, my name is Russ Milheim from The Direct. Thank you both for talking to me today about the show.
Hey, Russ,
Uh,
thanks for having us, man.
Of course, of course. First question. Both of your characters are basically thrown into the deep end of the pool, in over their heads in different ways. How would you say each of them handles that situation in a distinct way?
well, for Luke, it's I'm in this situation and I'm gonna try and do everything I can to get out of this situation immediately. Like within
Mm.
2 minutes of getting to the institute, he's talking to Kalisha about, where they are, who runs the place, and everything that she knows about it. And it's just very, he's got a lot of urgency in the first couple of episodes because, yeah, he does not want to be there, and quite rightfully so. It's not the best place.
Yeah, I think they're different in the way that they're sort of challenged by that kind of system because Luke really has no choice. He's literally kidnapped and tortured, and I think Tim is in a different situation where he's trying to be the best man he can in the world and trying. He's been someone who has consistently stood up for against injustice, but it has bitten him in a way before the story starts, and he's quite heavy when we meet him, and he's looking for sort of peace and to kind of stay out of that kind of stressful situation, I think. And then he cannot help himself. He keeps sticking his hand in, if you're going to use your pool analogy, he keeps sticking his hand in the water and pulling up these kind of secrets, and he can't help himself but to kind of go and investigate and try to be a force for good in the world, really. So I think they do come at it from different angles, but obviously once you watch the whole series, you realize they sort of end up in the same place.
I appreciate the building on these metaphors. The pool metaphor.
I love a metaphor.
Now, many are going to be quick to compare a story like this to that of, Marvel's X-Men. How would you say that this story is either similar and or different to those beloved characters that people might be trying to compare?
Well, I think the main difference is, Charles Xavier's kids, so to speak, were not uh, tortured and abused in
Yeah,
in
Always a good thing.
yeah.
yeah. And when I watched the show, I didn't get that sense of uh that these are superheroes in the making.
Yeah.
And that's the sense that I got from the X-Men.
There's even a reference at one point, which is like, "What do you think this is, X-Men?"
Yeah.
There's even a reference to acknowledging that we're in the same real world, that kind of thing could exist, thereby showing that the telepathic, telekinetic powers these kids have is real as opposed to superhero. And that's what I love about Stephen King is that actually everything is so thoughtful. And I think for me that those telepathic qualities represent the way that people communicate, and telekinesis are about those kind of like secret powers that we all have to be able to eventually tap into and use to stand up against a regime that might be oppressive. So I think a lot of his stuff is about tapping into that.
I know the usual question here might be, what superpowers would you want to have? But I'm going to flip it and go, are there any
Right.
common superpowers that you would never want to have, that you want to be as far away from as possible?
I think telepathy is probably one of them, and I've answered in other interviews. I've said I'd rather be telepathic than telekinetic because I don't know what good the telekinesis can do. But the telepathy, I think, would eventually it would destroy your brain.
Mm.
You just don't want to know what everyone's thinking all the time. It's just not healthy.
Yep.
Coming as a son of a psychotherapist and a psychiatrist, I feel like I can speak to that with some inherited authority at least. Like you don't want to know based on what people write on Instagram. If that's half of what people are actually thinking.
Yeah. Um, I think super strength is tough. Like that's tricky. Like I don't know about that because it's like if you just like if you pick up your dog and just crush him,
That
you
is
don't know
a very
you
dark way to
do
think
not know
about
your
it.
own strength.
That
You
is
could just
dark. Yeah.
hug someone and well, no, they're gone now. Do you know what I mean? Like that will be a tough one to manage, I think.
Sounds like someone just watched The
What's
Boys.
your answer? I bet you've got a good answer.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with what you said, but also like immortality, never.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah. No, no, no.
I don't want to live forever. That's okay.
No.
Yeah.
Ooh,
But, you
that's
know.
a good one.
Well, thank you guys both for talking to me about the show. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
everyone getting to see it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Russ Milheim from The Direct. Thank you for talking to me today about the show.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
You know, Miss Sigsby is a commanding and ominous leader at the Institute, someone who's clearly hiding a lot. How did you approach projecting that outward-facing exterior, as someone who does know all the answers and, is hiding it all?
I think just really going back to what Jack kind of framed it as, how far would you go to save the world? And that's really what she believes. She really believes that she's working for the greater good of humanity. And, ultimately that's what makes her truly dangerous, is that she thinks she's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So just always going back to that made her kind of undaunted.
The usual question that you probably got asked here is, what might be a superpower that you want? However, I'm going to flip it
Oh,
and
yeah.
go, what is it? What is a superpower, a common superpower that you don't want anything to do with? That you're like, that would be the worst thing to ever have.
I think I probably wouldn't want to fly because I'm afraid of heights, but I would want to be a polyglot, I think, if I could have a superpower. I don't know if that's a superpower, but to me it is. I'd want to wake up, knowing like 100 languages and dialects.
That
Which,
sounds like a superpower to me. So,
yeah.
what do you feel you added to Miss Sigsby that wasn't necessarily on the page, but through your performance, you kind of brought out?
I don't know. I mean, mostly I want to serve what Stephen wrote. I want to humbly like approach the material and just not screw it up. I did want there to be a big gap between the way she presents at work and the way she is at home when she's alone, that there was like no attempt whatsoever to no attempt at self-care, like can't even bring herself to barely get a fork, no, or a plate when she's eating, that just speaks to some kind of real self-loathing, and somebody who's just kind of rushing through life so she doesn't have to look at anything.
I had to squeeze in a really quick, unrelated question for you. You have previously shared that the Weeds reboot was sadly canceled. I was wondering if you could share, maybe like, what happened in terms of why didn't we go through with it? But then also, what might that show have looked like if it did happen?
Yeah, I thought it was going to take place in Copenhagen, and I thought it was a great idea, and it was very abrupt. It almost happened so many times, and the last time it was like, on Thursday there's going to be a blah blah meeting for this, and then on Monday it was canceled.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, a long lead up for that, and it was a drag because we were excited to get to work together again, and I wanted to do it.
Well, hopefully one day, you'll be able to come back and some version of it will still happen.
I mean, I don't know. Grandma's getting a little, I mean, I can't, I don't know. I don't know how much longer I could be on a film set, but
My name is Russ Milheim from The Direct. Thank you both for talking to me today about the show.
Hi,
Good
Russ.
to talk with you. Very cool action heroes behind you.
Really.
Thank you. My first question is, when it came to creating this show, what were some of the key changes you both felt needed to be made as this story jumped mediums?
Look, the challenge of adapting Stephen King is of adapting any Stephen King is that so much of the pleasure of his writing is the access he gives you to the deepest, darkest thoughts and feelings and desires of his characters. And so there's just an inherent challenge to taking those things that are completely internal, that the characters probably aren't telling anybody, that and making them external and cinematic so that they read on screen. The particular challenge, well, there are a couple particular challenges to the Institute. One of them is that we made the kids slightly older, which Jack, I'm sure will talk. I mean, just like a couple years older than they are in the book. But the story challenge is that, or one of the story challenges, the big one that we had to make some changes to, sort of figure our way through, is that the Ben Barnes character of Tim in the book is there in the first 70 pages. You're with him, and then he disappears for hundreds of pages until Luke gets to him. And that's what brings him back into the story. So we had to figure out a way to integrate him into the story, to have him aware of the Institute, sort of starting to unravel the mystery of it, but also never having him step on the idea that the kids have to rescue themselves, right? That, you know, that he would never become an action hero who sort of hears that kids are being mistreated and ends up riding to the rescue. So that was kind of our big overarching challenge, that we had to, you know, make changes to the narrative to fit.
Yeah, we never wanted to make it a sadistic show, and except for keeping Avery, who comes into it in episode 2, 10 years old. We found Joe Freeman, who is so terrific. We then wanted to age up the kids just a little to marry around him, and the fact that I think it serves a lot of purposes. It keeps the show from being a horrifying experience and still horrific. You know, there's a fine line, and we wanted to walk that line. And when I first got sent the book, The Galleys, the Parkland school shooting had just happened, the tragedy, and I saw those kids become this political force, the ones who survived, and talk to the adults and the politicians around them and literally say, you all screwed up. We know how to fix this. Get out of our way. And I thought, bingo, that's the future. There they are. And that, to me, in the idea of children shall inherit the earth, but first they have to save themselves, became sort of a touchstone for Ben and I as we started to figure out how we were going to do this. And Stephen always felt the kids were the thing.
Last real quick thing. What is there a long-term plan here, multiple seasons, or do we see this as limited?
No, we certainly plan to do more. I mean, we have these places that we want the story to go. Certainly the book ends with this suggestion that there is a much larger world and a much larger conspiracy going on than we've seen. And that is the way we're ending season 1 as well. And yes, listen, if there is a demand for more, we certainly want to tell more. I mean, we've been talking to Stephen about it. He's excited about it. And yeah, that would be ideal.
Yeah, Stephen became an exec producer on our show, which he doesn't always do. He always has the right, and everybody wishes he will put his name on it.
It's really when he wants to endorse something. I mean, you know, if you're Stephen King, you always, you know, have in your contract that if you want to be, you can be an executive producer, but he only does it when he's really behind it. And so that's been very gratifying. And yeah, we would love it to continue.